I've worked in building maintenance for almost 12 years. Elevators, HVAC, wiring, you name it. Nothing about the job surprises me anymore. Until I got a service ticket from the Ashridge Tower, a 30-story corporate high-rise in the downtown district. The report said, elevator stops at unauthorized level between floors 7 and 8. Tenants report doors opening to an empty hallway. No record of such a floor existing. At first, I thought it was a software glitch. Maybe a miscalibrated panel or a prank from the construction crew. But something about the wording felt off. I got there around 8 p.m. The lobby was dead quiet except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Security was a single guard sitting half asleep behind the desk. When I told him why I was there, he just frowned and said, "You too? Third one this week. They keep sending texts, but nobody sticks around long." I laughed it off, signed in, and headed for the service elevator. The ride up was smooth, until it wasn't. Between the 7th and 8th floors, the lights flickered. The control panel froze. The floor indicator flashed. 7, 7, 7, 7, 1, 2. Then the elevator stopped. The doors opened to a hallway I'd never seen before. Clean white tiles, silver wall sconces, but no signage, no sound, no people. Just one faint hum, like the entire building was holding its breath. I stepped out, and the doors closed behind me. At first, I thought I'd stepped into a construction zone. The hallway was spotless, too spotless. The air smelled like disinfectant, and the light had that weird, sterile hum that buzzes in your ears after a while. I took a few cautious steps forward. The tiles under my boots echoed in a way that didn't feel right, like the sound was coming back from the walls, delayed, almost metallic. Every door I passed had a silver number plate, but instead of normal numbers, they were etched like 7A01, 7A02, 7A03. There was no listing for any 7A in the building directory. I radioed the security guard downstairs. Static, not even a crackle. My service tablet wouldn't connect to the network either. No Wi-Fi, no data. Just searching for signal. I decided to head back to the elevator, except the hall behind me wasn't the same. The doors I passed earlier were gone. The hallway was shorter now, and where the elevator had been, there was just another stretch of wall, smooth and blank. I tried to stay calm. Years of building work had taught me one rule: never panic in a malfunctioning structure. You move slow, think fast. So I marked the wall with my pen, a big black X, and kept walking. But no matter which direction I went, I kept ending up at the same spot. Same wall, same X. That's when I noticed something on the floor. Faint footprints leading further down the corridor. Bare feet and wet. The footprints trailed down the hallway, each one glistening faintly under the cold white light. They led to a door at the very end, 7A09, the only one slightly ajar. I hesitated. I could hear something faint inside, a steady dripping sound. I pushed the door open just enough to peek in. The room was identical to every other maintenance unit I'd ever seen. Tiled floors, a sink, an inspection hatch, except for one thing. There was furniture, a bed, a dresser, a lamp softly glowing. Someone had been living here, and sitting on the bed facing the wall was a woman. Her hair was long and black, hanging down her back like wet rope. She didn't move. "Ma'am?" I called out. No response. "Maintenance. I need you to..." She turned her head. Not all the way, just enough for me to see her profile. Her skin was gray, like she'd been underwater for too long. Her lips parted, and I swear I heard water gurgle inside her throat. Then she spoke, barely above a whisper. "You're not supposed to be here." I stumbled back. I work here. I was called for an inspection." She smiled, not kindly. "They all say that." And then she stood. The sound, that wet, squelching sound, came with every step she took toward me. When she reached the light, I realized her clothes were soaked, dripping onto the floor. But there was no puddle. The water just disappeared when it touched the tiles. I bolted for the hallway, slammed the door shut, and the entire corridor went dark. Every single light blinked out at once, except the red glow from the exit sign at the far end. I ran. Didn't think, didn't look back, just ran. When I reached the exit, I slammed my shoulder against it and burst out, onto the 7th floor. Not the 7A, the real 7th floor. The hallway was normal again. I was drenched, though. My clothes clung to me like I'd stepped out of a pool. The guard looked at me like I was insane when I came down to the lobby. He said no alarms had gone off, no reports, and there's no record, none, of any 7th-and-a-half floor existing in that building. But here's what messes with me most. The next morning I got an automated work order notification. Routine inspection. Location. Floor 7A. Room 09. I told myself I wasn't going back. I filed my report, said it was a malfunctioning sensor issue, blamed the humidity and tried to forget the entire thing. But a few nights later, the night security guy, the same one who'd been on shift that evening, called me from a burner number. His voice was shaking. "Man, something's wrong up here," he whispered. "The elevator. It keeps stopping between floors. Says 7A. But the doors won't open. I can hear people walking inside." The line went dead. By the time I got there, the police were already surrounding the building. They said the night guard was missing. The elevator had stopped responding to calls. When I checked the system logs, there it was again. Level 7A accessed 03:11 a.m. They didn't believe me when I told them that floor didn't exist. So when everyone left, I stayed behind. I had to see it again. I needed to know if it was real or if I was losing my mind. I took the service elevator, used the master key, and just like before, the car jerked midway up and froze. The panel flickered, then the same letters appeared. 7A. The doors opened, same humming lights, same sterile smell, except now the air felt heavier, like breathing through wet fabric. I called out for the guard, my flashlight cutting through the dim. Down the hall something moved, fast, ducking into one of the rooms. I followed the wet footprints again, my boots squeaking with every step. They led to room 09. But this time, when I opened the door, the room was empty, no furniture, just bare concrete walls. Then my radio crackled. "Maintenance, report in," said a voice. Only, it wasn't dispatch. It was me, my own voice, repeating the same words I'd said the first time I was here. "Ma'am, maintenance, I need you to..." I froze. The sound came from down the hall, not the radio. And then the door across from me creaked open and I saw her again. That drowned woman, standing in the shadows, whispering something I couldn't understand. The walls around her began to shimmer, and for a moment I saw water, rising, flooding the corridor. But it wasn't splashing, it was suspended in midair like gravity didn't exist there. She stepped closer. I could see the outline of something under her skin, like she was hollow, filled with moving liquid. She whispered, "We don't belong above the water." And when she reached for me, the lights went out again. When I came to, I was lying in the lobby, paramedics over me. They said I'd been found unconscious inside the elevator, doors open, stuck between the 6th and 7th floors. They told me the night guard's body was never found. But a week later, the new guy called in sick. He said he'd been hearing dripping sounds in the empty elevator shaft at night, and once, when the doors opened, he thought he saw a reflection of a hallway that shouldn't be there. For days after the incident, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that number glowing in the dark, 7A, and heard that slow, deliberate dripping sound echoing through the empty hall. I tried to convince myself it was trauma, maybe some kind of stress-induced hallucination. But that theory died when I received a file envelope on my doorstep. No sender, no return address. Inside were old blueprints, original architectural schematics of the building, dating back to 1974. And there it was, a floor wedged between 7 and 8. Labeled not 7A, but submersion level. It had been part of an early water cooling design. a hidden level meant to regulate plumbing pressure and house emergency pumps. But the system had failed catastrophically. A pipe burst, the floor flooded, and 3 workers drowned before they could be rescued. The project was quietly covered up. The city never approved the rebuild. The developer sealed it off and renumbered the floors to hide the incident. The drowned workers' bodies were never officially recovered. Only one name stood out in the old paperwork: a woman named Marissa Hale, a maintenance inspector. Room 09 was listed under her name. That night I drove back to the building. Couldn't stop myself. It was raining. Of course it was. And the sound of it on my windshield made me sick to my stomach. I went down to the maintenance basement where the foundation pipes ran deep into the earth. And there, behind an old breaker panel, I found something that shouldn't have been there. A door, rusted shut. The label above it read, "Submersion Level Access." My hands shook as I pried it open. Inside was a staircase, leading down, not up, and the smell hit me instantly. Wet concrete, rotting water. As I descended, I could hear the dripping again. Then voices, distant, murmuring. When I reached the bottom, I saw it. A wide, dark corridor submerged ankle-deep in black water. The walls shimmered faintly, reflecting what little light I had. And at the far end, standing perfectly still, was Marissa. Her eyes were open, unblinking. Water poured constantly from her mouth, rippling out across the flooded floor, like the building itself was breathing through her. Behind her, I could see 3 other shapes, the outlines of the drowned workers, half submerged, swaying slightly in the current. She raised a hand toward me, her voice a hollow echo through the dripping air. "It was never drained," she said. "They just built over it." And then the water surged forward, swallowing everything. When I woke up, I was outside, lying in the mud behind the building. The access door was gone. Just a wall now. Solid concrete. No sign of any entry. The company sealed the entire property the next day. Said it was unsafe. They're planning to demolish it soon. But here's the part that keeps me up at night. 2 weeks ago, I was driving past the demolition site, and on the top of one of the new construction elevators painted in bright white, I saw the designation 7A.